So what we're going to do here is take a very simple 2-bar bass line and play that along to the metronome. We'll start off with the metronome clicking on all 4 beats of the bar, and then we'll gradually take a couple of clicks away and then 3 clicks away. Now when that happens, you'll have to use your own sense of timing and your own internal clock to fill in the gaps where you heard clicks before and now they're not there. That's the whole point of this exercise, is to work on your own sense of timing. No drummer, no drum machine, just you. So if you've never played with a metronome before, even the relatively simple one where it's on all 4 beats of the bar will seem pretty tricky, okay? So be very, very patient. Don't get too frustrated. Don't hate me too much for these exercises. When we get to the one where it's just 1 click, that's actually really difficult, okay? So take your time with these, practice them every day, and before long you'll have a great sense of timing, which is one of the best things you can have as a bass player, okay? So here's the groove, very simple. You don't have to use that. You can use any bass line you know, you can make something up, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is play it in time, or as in time as you can. All examples here are going to be at 120 BPM, and we'll start off 120 BPM and then we'll halve that and then halve that. You'll see exactly what I mean in a second. So let's go straight on to exercise 1. So I guess this is technically the simplest of the 7 exercises, as you have a click on all 4 beats of the bar. But as I mentioned before, if you've never done this before, or not much of it, playing to a metronome that is, this could even be tricky. So do persevere with it. Now, if you've ever wanted to get into studio playing or recording bass at home, then many times you play to a click track, and all the click track is a metronome playing on all 4 beats of the bar like this. So if that's of interest, spend a bit of time on this. Now I'm just going to play it a few times round, and then you can stop the video and set your own metronome. You can get one on your phone. Metronomeonline.com is good, and I'm just using Logic in the background here, so you can use Cubase or whatever you have. So as I'm going, I'm kind of tapping my foot, nodding a bit, just getting into the groove of it, and just trying to play it in time, really. That's the game here. So I'll set the metronome now, play it around a bit, and then you can stop the video and try it yourself. And actually, by the way, learning to tap your foot and play at the same time is really, really important. I remember the first time I did it years ago, I just couldn't do it. It was really difficult. I couldn't multitask. But really, really slowly, just try and play anything. That's your measurement. That's your grid, really. That's your reference, okay? And all of this is about strengthening your internal clock, your internal sense of timing. So yeah, I really recommend tapping that foot along as you go. So now we're going to put the metronome just clicking on beats 1 and 3. Now to do that, just set your metronome to half the original speed. So we're doing 120 BPM, so I've set it to 60 beats per minute now. Now as you hear in a second, there's a bit more work to be done on your part now, because we're going to do beats 1 and 3 first, okay? So beats 2 and 4, there'll be a gap. That's where your timing comes in, okay? So let me just set the metronome and I'll count what I need to be counting, okay? So that's 60 beats per minute, but I'm still in 120 beats per minute. I'll show you what I mean. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's what we're dealing with here, okay? So I'm going to play the groove exactly along to that, okay? So I need to get into a bit, so I'm just in my head, I'm thinking that. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. Now as that metronome goes behind me, what I'll do is I'm going to switch that to beats 2 and 4 now. So now I have to kind of get into that mentality. So here I'm going 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. once you get into this one, this is quite cool, this one, because when you hear, I'll switch that off actually, when you hear lots of modern music, the snare drum often hits on beats 2 and 4. And so when you get into this, it's almost as if the metronome is your snare drum, okay? So both those exercises 2 and 3 are, I would say, trickier than exercise 1, okay? Because you've got to do a bit more timing yourself, a bit more counting yourself. So we'll move on to the next ones now. These ones are the trickiest of the lot. So the next 4 are the tricky ones. This is where we only get 1 click per bar, and we have to do the rest of the work here. So to do this, set the metronome to half the speed from what it was before. So I've set mine to 30 beats per minute now. Now, when I play the click in a second, it'll sound really, really slow, but I'll show you what I mean. We are still at 120 beats per minute. So have a listen to this. So again, sounds really slow, but I need to be thinking in 120. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I'm thinking now. This is what I mean, where you've got this massive gap in between. And at first, you probably won't be able to lock on to where you need to be, okay? It does take a bit of time for this, okay? So I'll play the groove, and I'm going with that click on beat 1, and it's beat 1 only. So I'll need to pause just a second to get it in my head where the beat 1 is and where the next beat 1 is, okay? 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you'll notice there I did miss a few, but who cares? Like, I'm just cold into this without a bit of practice, and that's what it takes, okay? It takes a lot of practice to nail this, okay? So do take your time with this. Now let's move on to that click being on beat 2. So again, I'll show you how I'd practice doing this. I'll play the click, I'll count it for you. You'll see that I'll take a couple of times around to lock exactly on to where I need to be, and then I'll start playing once I'm there, okay? Now, this does take a bit of practice. Even now, got to get my head around it, okay? So do take your time. So here's the click. So that's beat 2, so I need to lock on. So just give me a second. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even just not playing and counting along, that took me a little time to get on. So I'll try and play the groove now along to it. I find that once you kind of get into it, you really, really feel it, and you really, really feel where the beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 are. Okay, obviously you can hear 2, but I'm talking about 1, 3, and 4. I'm feeling those very, very strongly. Okay, so now we'll feel the click on beat 3. Do exactly the same thing as before. I'll try and just lock onto it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that first bar I was way off, but then you kind of realise that that note right there on beat 3 is exactly locked on to the click that you're hearing, okay? So it gives it a little different feel almost to the other one. So the final one is moving 1 forward to the click on beat 4. Now the groove is the same as ever here, but it just does feel a little different when you're hearing it just on 4, okay? But it's up to you to be really strong with where the other beats are. Okay, so let me put the click on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, you can hear that the first bar wasn't quite on. Get into it as we go on. I think it's fair to say there's a pretty big difference between the difficulty of the first exercise and those last four where you're just hearing one click per bar. They're pretty tricky, to be honest. Now, really don't worry if you couldn't do them or if you're not very good at them right now. I think that's the point really, is that anything new like this is very, very uncomfortable and makes you feel frustrated. I remember when I was tapping my foot and playing at the same time, I just couldn't do it really. Same with these exercises, I couldn't do those. The key to getting good at anything, especially bass, is to start off, embrace that uncomfortable feeling that you get, and just practice little by little. You'll get better, and you'll know you'll get better because it'll start to be easier, start to feel more comfortable, and that applies to absolutely everything you learn on the bass. So take your time with these and practice them as much as you can, and don't forget that your sense of timing is as important as anything else.